Hi, welcome back to Support for Celiac. Today I'm going to talk about why I am here and why I personally created this channel. And I'm going to share my story of being diagnosed with celiac and getting to the point where I'm at now with celiac disease. In my mid-20s, I discovered martial arts and I immediately fell in love with it. I started training 20 hours a week in like 6 different disciplines, and I just put my whole self into it. So I started eating healthier and really watching what I was putting in my body and making sure I was becoming a full, healthy adult. During that time, I started to develop a skin rash, mainly on my elbows and eventually on my butt cheeks. And it was very, very itchy. I went to 3 different dermatologists over the course of, I don't want to say a year and a half. And every time I went, I was just given like a skin cream. Oh, it was this, it was that, it was fungal. And every time the cream would help a little bit, and then the rash would come back and it would be worse. And at the time, it wasn't that concerning to me. I was training, I was eating healthy, I felt good. I felt the best I've ever felt in my life, honestly. I was really becoming an athlete. I was competing a lot in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was becoming stronger and healthier, so I thought. Eventually I got to a point where I was about to go and compete in a world competition for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I remember I went to a new dermatologist and they were looking at the rash, and I said, "Can you please just test it? Can you just take a sample of it?" And they really didn't want to, but I was persistent, and so they did. And they said, "It's probably this, this, or it could be celiac," which is where you're allergic to gluten. So they sent the test. About 2 weeks later, I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I had traveled to California to compete in this tournament, and I got the phone call saying the test came back and it's dermatitis herpetiformis, which is the skin rash for celiac disease. You most likely have celiac disease and should start following the gluten-free diet. So at the time of diagnosis, I felt so relieved that I had gotten it tested, that I knew what it was, and I thought, this is going to be fairly easy. I'm going to cut out gluten. I'm going to find out what gluten is because I didn't really know, and that's it. I'm just going to change my diet. I've changed my diet before to compete in tournaments, to cut weight, and I don't mind doing that to feel healthier. I cut out gluten. I did some research to find out what gluten was. I immediately cut it out, and immediately within 3 days, I think, the rash cleared up, and I felt great. And I want to say about 3 months in, a lot of other symptoms started coming. Nausea, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, belching, fatigue, headaches, all of that, brain fogginess. And I went to a GI doctor. They did the scope, the endoscopy, to see what the damage was on the inside of my body. It was a lot. I'm not super scientifically versed, but there's like a scale of the villi and what they're supposed to be from like 1, 2, 3, A and B. And the higher the number goes, the worse the damage is. And I was at a scale 3A or something, so almost the worst it can be. They said, all you need to do is keep following the gluten-free diet. So that's what I did. I went to see another GI doctor about 6 months after that, so about 9 months in, because I was still feeling a lot of symptoms, and they scoped me again, and I was still at the 3A level. Nothing had changed, nothing had gotten better. So then they put me on an ultra strict diet, which, the gluten-free diet, if you have followed it, if you have experience with it, it's already very strict. But it was a study done to see if I was getting any cross-contamination. So I was trying to take out any areas that I might be getting even the smallest amount of gluten. I'm talking about less than a crumb, like minute amount that you couldn't see. I couldn't have canned anything. I couldn't have frozen anything. I couldn't have any spices other than salt. I couldn't have any juices that weren't 100% juice. I couldn't have coffee, not even coffee beans, because of possible contamination, not tea. It was a really big change, but I did it. I did it for 3 months. They scoped me again and still no change. Still all the symptoms. They said, let's follow it longer. So I did it for another, I think, 4 months. At that time, the time that I was diagnosed, I had become vegan because of animal rights. I was just really passionate about my love for animals. I was trying to maintain that with the strict gluten-free diet. And it got to a point where, a year of just feeling horrible all the time and doing the best that I could to be healthy. And the doctor said, you've got to cut out any grains, any beans, any area of contamination. There was just no option. It was like, well, either stick to this belief system that I wanted to support or put my health first. So I started to adapt. I started to eat eggs to try to get my protein back up and get my other levels back up. And it still wasn't helping. I started to develop a swollenness in my nasal cavities. Saw multiple specialists, I think like 6 different specialists, and no one could figure out what it was. Finally, they sent me to a food allergist. Discovered I had like 8 different food allergies, several different nuts, rice, which was a huge one. I realized like there was no other option but to eat meat again. So I started eating meat, keeping with the strict diet, and still nothing was changing. I got scoped again. I don't know, this was scope 4 or 5 now, and it just wasn't working. And at this point, I was diagnosed with refractory celiac disease, which I've had a lot of conversations with other people in the celiac community, and a lot of people aren't aware of what that means. Refractory celiac essentially means that your villi in your stomach don't get better with just a gluten-free diet. So I had to go on a medication. Now there is currently no medication for celiac disease. So I had to take a medication that's designed for other illnesses. It's an immune suppressant steroid. So it suppressed my immune system in hopes that it would clear it up. We did that for 3 months. It wasn't quite where the doctors wanted it. And then we did another 3 months. And finally, I was in remission. I was really excited for that. My, intestines were healed, even though there were scars. And finally, I was in remission. I was so excited. I thought, I'm going to feel so much better. I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm with the best doctors. At this time, and I still am with a doctor a GI doctor specifically focused on celiac disease, is writing a book on celiac disease. I'm with a dietitian who's had celiac disease for 10 years. I'm with the best care that I can be with, and I'm very, very strict, and I still feel a lot of symptoms. I struggle a lot, like other autoimmune diseases. Some days I have good days, and some days I don't. And, that pushed me to join as an ambassador for Beyond Celiac, to keep up with the scientific research and to really do all that I can to push for a cure. But that still didn't feel like enough, which brings me to why I'm creating this channel. I think a lot of what I'm missing, and what I imagine a lot of other people are missing, is the validation and support aspect. Because sometimes I just feel like I'm complaining, and other people don't really understand that, I can't think straight sometimes. My bowels never function properly, and that affects my mood. I'm irritable, I'm grumpy, I'm hangry almost all the time because I feel really, really hungry, and then I eat, and then I feel nauseous and bloated and sick until I'm hungry again, and then I eat, and then the cycle starts all over. And I'm just bombarded all the time by these symptoms that I can't control, and no matter what I do, they don't go away. So that's my story. That's where I'm at now. I'd love to hear your comments or questions or any part of your feedback. And, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really want everyone here to be a part of the conversation and to feel supported and validated in what you're going through and not feel like you're a crazy person imagining these symptoms that are there and need to be addressed by the world and the scientific community. So I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one.